On video 5 of the Mirror series, I said that I think a leap year happens every 23 years. And I thought wrong. It doesn't. But that's why I said that I think that it does. Because I really wasn't sure. But what I did was I was remembering something that I discovered as I was looking over some connections with the somatic cell chart, which you should be familiar with now. It's a perfect overlay of the tree of Sephiroth that comes from the Jewish Kabbalah, the Jewish mystic teaching of the Kabbalah. No, I'm not even sure if I'm saying the word Sephiroth right. Never heard anybody say it. I've never looked into any of that. I've only looked into it as it's been required for the things that we have found relative to it. And of course, when I was looking into certain things dealing with embryos, I discovered this connection with a morula. And then in learning about what a morula was, I mean, you should remember it sounds like moo, like a cow, and the next word is rula. And I thought that was quite astounding. So from researching morula, I came across a diagram of a somatic cell. And that's eventually what motivated me to put this as the backdrop for the Rabbi T vid. At that time when I did it, I had no idea that this was an overlay for anything from the Kabbalah at all. I just discovered that in this series, Mirror. And I would have never discovered that if I was not on this constant course of the perfection of the understanding of truth. I would have never discovered that, and probably many other people would not as well. So, something to be saying here about this morula. It's the first stage of embryonic growth between vegetable or animal on our world. Meaning every vegetable or animal in its first stage of embryonic growth goes through something that is called a morula, M-O-R-U-L-A. And then they say that this embryo called a morula goes through something called a torus stage. And I was like, when I was hearing all this, I was like, crazy. Because you should know morula, cow, and then torus, bull, right? Isn't that what we're learning? And if the sacred feminine was the cow to produce, as I'm telling you, the Antichrist from this embryo, in which now he becomes what? The moo ruler, the calf of Samaria, as we saw reported in Hosea, where Israel is making this calf with their own hands. And we know that's the fulfillment of Rev 12, that body that they're forming that becomes that scriptural man-child that's being produced for the spirit of their prince to come into. So then when I looked at morula, I was like further shocked to see that it goes through a stage called the torus, the bull stage. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks when they said, well, we most commonly refer to the embryo, the morula, as an apple. They say it looks kind of like an apple. I was like, really? Really? You refer to it as an apple. Now, this is something I'm researching on the internet here. I'm not really asking people things, but... So then, I mean, that's all it took. Once I understood that it was symbolized as an apple, and then now the embryo is even having the words mu rula in it, and it goes to the Torah stage, it was not hard to put the connections to what the Antichrist's hope was in the offerance of this apple and the placement of knowledge. And we really see that the apple was the mask for the knowledge, of which if he could just get these people deceived enough to follow that crooked path, and then to produce this knowledge in the future generations ahead, it would be the very thing that would enable him to come into the material form, was this mystery occult science. Okay? And they have been practicing it fervently, which in essence has brought him to the point of becoming a man god, not them. Not them. So all of that has so much relativity here for me. It's incredible. That's just a little bit of how it all kind of grows and connects together here. And then, like I said, it was being described as an apple. And furthermore, they said that the thing that they're describing as an apple that's called an embryo that they're naming a morula, they said it looks like a kind of like a soccer ball that is made up of individual hexagonal shapes, hexagons, which in essence is the 2D outline of a tetrahedron. Right, tetrahedrons. The very same thing that we're always talking about here. Circumscribed tetrahedral geometry in relationship to what? The seal. And I said that it's from micro to macro. And then we see that even the embryonic growth is encoded with these hexagonal impressions, which is the 2D outline of a tetrahedron. And as I said, that seal goes all the way from micro to macro, that he would have to overthrow that seal in order for him to come into the material form. Well, that's why you see the tree of Sephiroth is a perfect overlay of the somatic cell diagram. And then we see what? The 44 begins to develop, the 23 begins to come into play. So let me just go ahead and show you that overlay for people that might not have seen it before. Incredible. Incredible. The tree of Sephiroth, as we know now, gives us all of the geometry encoding for these alluding to of these symbols that are being displayed in a secretive way. They don't want everybody to understand what they're talking about, but they use these as codes in reference to what they're talking about. Beetle, fox, candle, rabbit hole. All of that can be found right here. All of that. We see the beetle with his head here, the out shape of the body, the two wings coming together back here. And then we would see it reverse with the fox. Here's his nose. These are the 2 points of his ears. And then this you wouldn't consider because this is basically happening in the spiritual. These things represent the material. There's the outline of the fox's head. Well, that's what I saw originally as the rabbit's head. And I saw it not within this. I saw it as I was researching. As you know, the word morula, and I came across this somatic cell. Incredible. So then maybe what? Like, I guess it was a little over a year and a half now, maybe even 2 years. Sometime in 2012, I uploaded this video, Rabbi T, with the chart. And then now we see in 214, I'm just beginning to see that the Spirit is giving me the correct leading. And now we have found out that it's revealed that it's a perfect overlay of the geometry for the tree of Sephiroth. Incredible. And then we've discovered that our angel hanging upside down from Orion in perspective of the reference to this bride. And that you could not mistake that because you wouldn't be thinking too well if you were mistaken the validity of what I said here. Let me just show you something real quick if we can find it. I think I'm supposed to be talking about some mistakes I made here. Give me a second. Okay. There we got it. What I tell you, I said there's that bride. This represents how that bride, the mystery bride, using the occultic knowledge, the magic, the Enochian magic, if you would, the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, to form this being into or to form a physical vessel for this being. As I said, they had to break the seal, which now you know is that hexagonal shapes, the tetrahedron, that's all over encrusted around vegetable or animal embryos known as morulas. And then you can see that would be the goal of him. The Mu ruler is trying to get in there the whole time. They even symbolize the guy in a freaking egg. Right? An egg is an embryo, guys. Okay? It ain't about you guys turning into gods like you think. And that's so crazy to me that you even think that. It's just freaking ludicrous. All right, so for anybody that hasn't seen that overlay yet, we're going to talk much more about this. This really needs its own video series. But how is this guy being related now to hanging upside down from Orion? Well, you should see that this person here represents the bride down there. This is bride right there. This is queen. We've already shown the angle of travel going in essence to the queen of heaven. We saw that connection. We saw this word Malkuth here, and I told you that I felt a connection with Melkart. That's how the Malkuth got that way. Well, I found that was right, and I'm going to be able to show that to you. Okay? So we see how the queen got to be a queen, how she got to be sacred in essence of passing these sacred genetics through, so that this being, which is absolutely dependent upon that bloodline of fallen genetics by choice, they have broken the seal. They have given up the seal by choice. They have not allowed the spirit, the true spirit creator, to indwell them. They have chose the spirit of a serpent wisdom instead. Okay, by default, they have lost that seal, and then that causes the genetics itself that is being brought from their vessels as they have given up the seal. It is the very material in which they use to clone his body from. And then archaeologically, we know that they have been collecting genetic material from mummies, pharaohs, and whatever other special type god king in our ancient past has been, and has had the foresight to preserve his physical remnants, his genetic matter. And you know that a lot of them preserve their penises. And they were doing this in hopes that they would be resurrected in the future. That's what the promise they thought was. But in reality, it's not the resurrection of them in the future. It's the resurrection of him in that future through that genetics that took the choice to fall, and then they used that genetic material as the fallen vessel legally for him to come into. Okay? And that's how it's all done. It's all right there. It's how they're portraying it. It's incredible. And we're going to link up this position here, the foundation, and then we're going to link this up to a picture of Saturn. And then in all reality, what we'll see is that this guy will be Saturn right here. Right? But not Saturn the planet, as so many people are flipped out on, right? Steering you off into the wrong direction like you wouldn't believe. Now we're talking about a high spirit being of serious deception. And that we see that through this deception in connection with Samyeza influencing the sons of Sam, as I told you, that it's really not Satan who's seeking to enter into the material form. It's really, in essence, the fallen prince, who would be Enki. So in all reality, the real emblem is of Enki, the fallen prince, the Nahesh coming into a material form. And you would understand that if you read the Urantia, and then you would understand the Bible better. You would see that Lucifer and Satan have already been sealed. They have already been completely sealed and locked away. And that took place, if I remember correctly, at the timing of Pentecost, at the timing of the cross. At that moment, they were duly interned, I think is the correct word. They were being held from that point forward. All right, but what we see who has not been held, completely sealed, would be the devil, the fallen prince of this world. But he is sealed in another fashion from affecting your free will. And then that is why he uses the material force system to influence your free will, to make you make the wrong choices in which he can capitalize on. That's what the capital system's all about. You think that you're capitalizing. No, they're capitalizing off of you and your wrong choices that you've been influenced to make, which is really making them the leaders by default. All right, so it's all right there. So we'll come back and show you how this is a representation of the sons of Sam, a more anatomical, physical, maybe the science portion of this that they're trying to manipulate and invade. Now, the people that might be associated with this, they don't really realize this. They're seeing this as a way for them to become God, and don't really realize that the dude is right there. So how could this dude be hanging from Orion? And then we see that the queen, as we see in Rev 12, which, as you understand, is being symbolized with the crown of the 12 stars on her head, right? Okay, read Rev 12, and then read Zach 5, as you already know. So there she is. That's the rabbit hole right there. The Malkuth got that way from the Melkart. Well, search who the Melkart is. You're going to come up with some interesting names that are going to link up to Nergal, Marduk, a whole bunch of stuff. In essence, the Nephilim, the descendancies of the fallen. So here we come, our Black Beauty. Okay, and then what do we see? These three colors. You know that this is that new shore. This represents the far side of the moon, the dark side of the moon. And I say dark side in perspective to the truth, because anything that's been kept in darkness in relative fashion is seen as secretive. It's been kept in secret. So that is the darkness of the secret that they have been keeping for all this time. And we know that what the secret is now working to culminate to, it's the consummation of their crimes coming to the full. And it's right there. So anybody that's been following the videos, you know that these three colors are intrinsically related to the constellational family of Orion. And then we see, if I'm not mistaken, this should be Betelgeuse, this should be Procyon, and this should be Sirius. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, and I want to maybe check that out real quick. But anyway, those are the diverse colors that we saw in Ezekiel that was associated with that eagle that was taking somebody somewhere. And then when we go to Rev 12, we find out that it's an eagle that is lifting a woman where she's got her feet on the moon, right? So that eagle would have to be the very same eagle. And we would make the very same connections as a result. All right, I'm not sure about the arrangement of the star colors, but I know it's the exact stars that we're talking about: Betelgeuse, Procyon, and Sirius. I'm pretty sure about Procyon, but it could be that these are reversed between Sirius and Betelgeuse, but I think that this would be Betelgeuse and that this would be Sirius in reflection of those colors, which are in reflection of the constellational family of Orion. And then now is where you get the queen, who is obviously with child, because this is the science for the fertility of birth. As you see, come on guys, what has the Spirit already shown us? Well, it's the exact science of the fertility of birth that is completely connected to this 44 business of divide and conquer. But as I said, they don't bring the birth down to the correct connection between a sexual union. They stop short there. That's why I have Eve crossed out and Adam crossed out, because they're not using an average male and female that are going to have sex and produce a baby that this dude's going to come into. No, they're building the body for him through the cloning. And then here's the 44, the mirror for the representation of the cloned materials. Because as you see here, in the normal somatic cell, 23 pairs of chromosomes are brought together. Out of these 23, 22 are identical. The 23rd pair is what is known as a sex cell. Well, in this instance, we see that the 22 identical pairs are being brought together. In essence, it's the cloned material, the identicals that are being brought together. Therefore, the mirror, the aspect of the mirror that's being brought forth. This would represent the personality, the special traits of the individual that would be the female. Well, that can't be had. What we see, it's got to be the cloned material, and he's going to be the habitation of the personality, because if we were to have a male and a female come together, we know that God is responsible for the infusion of that soul into that body. Then there would be no place for the fallen prince to go into. He needs to have a vessel that is entirely empty. This is why they're creating that dark matter. And then that dark matter, in essence, is being formed by the blasting out of that light, which I told you is the infinite spirit. And then you know that dark matter, by their definition, is matter that does not absorb, project, or reflect light. And I'm pretty sure that's the definition of it from their term. And as I said, they're hiding behind some scientific hoopla the real meaning of them trying to create this material form body that is being formed from cloned genetic material in the past from people that have already willingly given up their living seal. And then you know that now by the symbolism of the morula, which scientists say is the first embryonic state for vegetable or animal. And then if you look at a morula, they further say it symbolizes an apple that looks like it has hexagonal shapes all around it. which is the 2D outline geometry of a tetrahedron. There's the seal right there. There's what they are focused on. That's what he's focused on. That's what he has to break. But he can't break it in the individual will between a sex union. The fallen prince could not possess that baby. He has to have a body made for him that is already void of the soul presence in which that he himself can infuse into it. And then that's what that's all about. We had an audio outage. I said that he couldn't form into from a sexual union. Okay? And in a sense, you're trying to see him kind of make a copycat effort of the reported virgin-like status of Mary. But I would advise you to read the story from the Urantia about Mary and the birth of Jesus. Just do it. It'll make you happy to understand. There's no doubt about it. But as we see that he's not creating this virgin birth, he's trying to, in essence, mimic what you think is the perspective of a virgin birth, but it's being done now through science. It's being done now through this cloning aspect. And then the harvesting of the fallen genetic material, the semen, obviously, you've got to put this in perspective with what we saw happen to, what was it, Osiris. And we saw that the one piece of him that could not be found was his penis. And then eventually the genetic material was found and extracted, and some weird stuff goes on, let's just put it that way. But as you see, the obsession once again was the genitals, and as you see, the genitals become the obsession right here, right? The genitals become the obsession right here again. It says the foundation. And then if I was to show you an emblem of Saturn, which is not a planet, in the perspective of the fallen prince, they're just hiding that sophisticated deception behind that to throw people off so they're not looking into the fullness of this understanding. Now there's your Saturn, okay? Says it right there, the ancient god Saturn, depicted here in the 15th century. And it says, occultists view the planet Saturn as representing Satan, because it is the sixth planet from the sun, because of Saturn's role taught in mythologies. And I'm pretty sure that it might convey here that he's in relationship to agriculture and harvest. And at least we see that he's carrying the sickle here, and you can obviously relate that the sickle is going to be connected to harvest, which is then connected to agriculture, and which I said is now connecting him to this connection with time, the real aspect of time, which I said now is in perspective of that sevenfold times 70 generations, which was the seal that was put upon these beings that are representing the fallen. And then you could see now the serpent is representing that agriculture, which would be the produce of agriculture, which would in essence be fruit. And that apple is a perfect symbolism of it. But as we see, the fruit is masking a deeper deception with the occultic knowledge, which is really trying to get into the embryonic state of the physicality of the dominion of man. And then he's using the deception to do it. Let's notice that there's a 7-pointed star at the genitalia. And the 7-pointed star at the genitalia is going to be in reflection of the Pleiades. But it's in reflection of the Pleiades with the mythology about the Pleiades, not so much about the Pleiades star system itself. And then we're going to find that this reflection of the Pleiades is going to fulfill itself with the sweet influences of the Pleiades, right? Okay, and who would those Pleiadians be? Those blonde, tall, Nordic-like individuals. And then the sweet influences would have to be the sex act, right? Because now we see that this situation becomes the foundation. And it's the same hairy, bearded individual, if anybody's not taking notice of that. Right? Same bearded individual. Right there. Same old dude. Same old dude. Same old dude. Okay, and then as you should understand, in the correct placement, there is our virgin naked, symbolizing what? Aquarius. But what has she got? She's got the water. Let's think about Jack and Jill going up the hill to fetch a pail of water. And then we got to think about the eagle that is tempting that other eagle to bring that water to it. And then we come on up here to the equational path of travel. Guess what? There's a sickle. Well, that's what Jesus Christ was talking about with those angels that are going to reap. And then in essence, that it's only going to be the true angels of God that are going to have the ability to divide these wheat from the tares. But we see where the wheat and the tares are going to be divided at, don't we? And in essence, they think they're dividing wheat and tares here. No, there's going to have to be a whole other division of wheat and tares of these people that are all seeing themselves as the true wheat once they go there. Well, then we're going to see that something calamitous happens and that many of them are going to see that they were wrong and they're going to repent. Well, we're going to see that Jesus has already prophesied that he's going to make a way for them to return. He's going to make a way for them to come back into the fold, and he will accept them, no matter how late in the hour it is. And you have to really, there's going to be some parables that might cast doubt on what I just said, but that what anybody that produces those in contrast to what I just said, what we're really going to do is cast doubt on what they know in those parables, because those parables don't contradict that. But I do know a few particular parables that people might point to that think that it's saying something different. It's not. And maybe we'll go over and look at some examples where people could be seeing things that Jesus is saying that they might think that I'm not teaching, where I teach his perfection and his mercy, where he says, I will have mercy and not a sacrifice. Go find out what this meaneth. And I have, and I understand it. And I don't think these people have. If you want to go find out what that means yourself, view the video series on my playlist. I'll have mercy and not a sacrifice. Matter of fact, view all the videos that I have pertaining to Jesus Christ's perfection. And you're going to see that these people are all involved in this guy. This guy holding a cane, right? And then you got to start thinking about the wanderers and the nomads, the Canaanites, okay? And you got to start thinking about that movie Kaiser Sose. And then as what they're trying to do now, flip the script, switch the flip, and then they're trying to make somebody else take the place of the evil in which they have been conveniently producing for all of these centuries, if you will. And then now they're trying to shift the bill onto somebody else. Well, it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. We're getting right through this thing pretty easily in our understanding. The more information that we gain, no doubt about it. So without a doubt, here's our high spirit being, which I said is not really a reflection of Satan, but Satan is the influencer and the inspirer of this, the prince of this world, to go into rebellion. But Satan, Lucifer, are already sealed. They're already locked up for real. And we see that that the prince himself, in essence, is bound to the chains of the connection of these occultic families that are working to produce the break in the seal to where he can slip through and gain his material form. All right? And I'll be persistent about that. That would be Enki the Nahesh, the serpent, and then that would be consistent with what you would see in the symbolism of Horus, and even in the symbolism of Cyrus, because it's still those two representations of what all that originates from, in which is the lineage in which he's coming from. Because even the pharaohs of Egypt, successive pharaohs, consider themselves to be in the likeness of Horus, and simultaneously the likeness of Osiris. And we would see that they modeled themselves after these likenesses, almost in a ideology type, mirroring, reflection type sense. But that becomes necessary. It becomes necessary for this spirit being's plan to work out, because he has to have people fall to his deception so that the seal can be broken voluntarily by their will. And else this vampire can't come in. He can't come into the house until you invite him in. So in other words, he had to create a deceived house of many people that would, in essence, bust the doors out of their own windows, bust the doors off their own hinges, leave this place wide open with no spiritual security whatsoever, and that he himself would basically trample right on through, coming into the house, if you will. Certain aspects of this house that they've created for us are something that I would rather be out of and not in of, if you understand what I'm talking about. But that should be a pretty strong revelation for you, how all that comes into play. And then there would be the colors that would make the consistency of the angel of Orion hung upside down. Now you know the aspect of the birth and the fertility. You cannot deny the relativity. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that also. So, in other words, he's not coming through a sex act. He's not coming through a sex act here. He's coming through a scientific act. And this is where I say in the poem and the vision from 20 years ago, I really don't even know what I'm saying, but I know what it means now. Science and technology successfully manifest themselves in men. It seems these times will surely end. Soon the wind will start its blow, bringing hail, fire, and strange snows. With these things, confusion will increase for all who have signed illusion's lease. Wow, what powerful words the Spirit gave me to aspire in its understanding and its fullness of meaning, as I feel that I know I already am. I already am. All right, so I'm not exactly sure if I've told y'all guys this, because I've tried to make this video about 6 or 7 times thus far. I've already erased 3 or 4 videos at about 40 minutes long. Just for various reasons. I felt the videos were too long for the point that I was trying to make. So anyway, I was listening to video 5 in this series of the Mirror Mirror, and I said that I think that a leap year was 23 years. I said I think, and I thought wrong, but this is what I was thinking. And why I was doing this, what made me make the connection here with 40 times 44 is because we had the 44 here. And I knew that Inky was in essence what they're trying to bring through. Or in essence what Inky is deceiving them to bring through. So Inky's most relative number is 40. And then we already had the time symbol in place. Of course, the genetic crossing, the deceiving, the blinding of the eyes, the whole thing that makes this possible. And then now we've got 44, which now becomes the identical pairs, which is going against the unique pair, and then bringing the identical clone pair into the creation. Okay, foregoing the actual sex act for the scientific act of the cloned material of the beings of the past. So 40 times 44 became something I wanted to understand. I wanted to look for some sort of connection there. And that's when I got 1,760. I saw 1,760 as a year. Okay, so then I immediately looked up what 1760 was in particular. I found a bunch of things, but one thing that we'll just talk about here to keep this simple was that it was a leap year. And then that's where I wrote 23, or no, that's where I wrote leap year right here. Okay, so I found out that 40 times 44 equaled 1,760. I wanted to see if it had a connection with a year, so I went to 1760 and found out that 1760 was a leap year. Well, then I was doing the video. This all came from a video that was promoted by Rabbi T. This situation where I'm talking about somebody that was attacking me, a part of this huge group. And then I broke down the word rabbi. He called himself a rabbi. And then I know this connection with this mystical Jewish mysticism and rabbis. And it wasn't too hard for me to just add a T on them because they follow this Kabbalistic letter to the T. And then that's what bore the idea or the inspiration for Rabbi T in my mind. And then there I've said, okay, well, I saw the somatic cell and it looked like the big ears of a rabbit to me right here. Big ears of a rabbit coming down to the rabbit's nose. And it wasn't hard for me to see this as an inspiration for the backdrop for the Rabbi T poem. What I didn't know is that it developed into an overlay of the Tree of Sephiroth, which is all about bringing fallen prince into material form, which is exactly what the science is here. Incredible. What an amazing expose that was. What an amazing expose. And I just noticed something here. 23 at the bottom of that. 23. It's plate 23. I guess we would look back to see plate 23 for a little more information on this, or maybe not, but it does got the 23 right there. Isn't that crazy? Sacred Feminine 23 Enigma. It's right up under there. Okay, and it's right here. It's right there. It's the 23 Enigma that gets this thing going. He's coming through the 46 that is a product of the 223. 123 from here, 123 to here, brought these two together to make this normal female. Now she's a product of those 223s, which in efference now become the 46. Out of the 46, only 44 is selected, as you see, for the cloning of the other 44. All right, and then this is where he's going to be made. He's not going to be made here. Not going to be brought to the Sex Act, the Scientific Act. So at that point, I was pretty astonished that I had a leap year connection, because we're talking about rabbits and fertility. All right, so then the next thing that I did was that I added these numbers together. I added 17 plus 6. And I might have added them other ways, but when I added 17 plus 6, I came up to 23. And so, incidentally, if you just add 17 plus 60, that is going to be 77, and that's in essence like another mirror, if you will. And we could kind of mirror that and come up with the inverted triangle, could we not? We could get rid of one of the 7s, mirror only the backward 7, and then that would make for us mirror the backward 7, and then that would make for us the inverted triangle, right? 77. Incredible. So, amazing. Just outright amazing. So, 17 plus 6 came up to 23. I found out that 1760 was a leap year. And then I added it to 23. I put 23 above leap year. And then somewhere down the line, I've taken it to mean that a leap year was 23 years apart. I confused my own self with something of an equation that over time, because this is from way back here, I just kind of just made a memory connection wrong here. So in video 5, it's not 23 years for a leap year. And I do say I think. I wasn't emphatically forcing it on anybody or telling anybody that's what it was. I said I think that it was. And then this is what I was thinking of. I kind of photographically remembered leap year 23, what I had written here. So I was searching through the card catalog of my mind to keep the video going. So I apologize. But there is relativity there with this 23 and the leap year, which I have discovered further into looking into this, which will validate this 23 connection to a leap year, as you already see it being connected in other ways with fertility. There is a connection there with that fertility. Okay, so, forgive me. It's enormous, all the things that I've got to think about. If I do 45-minute long videos, an hour-long video, and I'm not editing these things, it's difficult to produce a video that long that is doesn't have any mistakes, doesn't have any verbal errors or omissions. It's real difficult, and I apologize ahead of time if it has confused anybody in any way. I think that a lot of times I mix up the chapter and the verse too. I know that I'm flipping the pages so much between chapters and verses and from one book to another and diagrams, and I'm watching the clock, and I got people accusing me and stalking me and practically threatening to kill me. There's a lot of stuff on my mind, and I don't always access the exact card catalog in my mind for the information as I'm trying to instantly bring all this up to stay on track here. So I'm human. That's the good news. I'm not perfect. I know what is perfect, and that's Jesus Christ. That's what's perfect. I'm not the spirit of truth. My spirit is not the spirit of truth. My spirit is not perfected. Okay, I have a potential of perfection, which can be reached in the eternal pursuit of that perfection in eternity. And that's what perfection is. It's the adventure of eternity. And then you never exhaust the pursuit of perfection in eternity. always ever being led by the higher perfection of Jesus Christ before us, in which we never obtain that pinnacle. That's what makes eternity so fabulous. That's what makes so many of these higher orders of already created intelligence so jealous of us, because we can continue to grow indefinitely with the expansion of eternity itself. So, I mean, a lot of people, I'm not trying to bring people down here, you know. In some ways I probably do a lot of times, but you're not gods. You're not gods. You are God's mortal time, space children, is what you are. They have the potential and the gift of eternity being offered to you. But you can't claim that as a gift to yourself by you being God and your creator and your designer and designing your eternity for you. It doesn't happen like that. Eternity has already been designed for you to go through. It's the very thing that makes you perfect. Your design of eternity, your design of system, your design of program, your design of opinion does not make you perfect. And certainly not the devil's. The devil's was to circumnavigate the perfection attainment program that God had already produced for us, that they themselves were upholding. But then when they realized, in essence, that the mortals of time and space, of which when they were teaching us, we were in all reality much, much, much lower, okay, on the scale of potential perfection. But then they realized that the education they were responsible for revealing to us leads us into a level of the perfection status that far exceeds their experiential gain, because they themselves were already created perfect. We ourselves earn the perfection by the experiences of our choices. And then we, by free will, must make those choices correctly. And then, in essence, the default of our imperfection is based directly upon the imperfection of our choices. Right? So, the universe, in its eternal scale, is a vast educational school of conditional environment that offers the parameters of experiential gain by going through the adaptation process of overcoming a continually heightened environment that have continually expanded borders of knowledge and potential that you yourself must aspire to. And it ain't ever going to stop. It ain't ever going to stop. You are always going to be asked to be much, 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 much more than you already are. That's what eternity is. You never reach that point where you have become all that you're going to be. Why would you need to continue forth? And what is that adventure? You would become sedentary. You would become stagnant. You would become lost. You would become depressed. You would become depraved. You need new stimulus. You need something to overcome. You need new challenges. You know? That's what the internal environment provides for you. Just as you see Lucifer, Satan, and the devil had a material environment that was challenging for them to manage and even overcome its own difficulties. And as you see, they failed. And then have reverted back into their own failure, and in essence seeking to claim some sort of existence within the dominion of their own failure, their material default at managing the material system that they themselves were equipped to in their spiritual divinity. You see that? Even these beings of already created high spiritual divinity status have fallen from that high, lofty place. And now they are, in essence, using you to get what they need and want, because you yourself are already in direct line of that gift for free. It's already yours. All you have to do is accept it, but it's already, in essence, offered freely. So you become at least now the pinnacle of observation for the evil eye. You become the objective to distort. Okay, the freedom, in essence, is in our hands. They're making us think that it's in their hands. It's not. It's in our hands, and it's a gift given by Jesus, not the devil. Not the devil. So I think the overwhelming thing here to take is that I'm doing the best that I can. I understand that people got problems with me. I understand that people are going to accuse me. I understand that people are going to find fault in me. I don't got no problem with that. They could do that. It does. It does whatever it's going to do. It doesn't always make me happy, but it doesn't always make me sad either. I know that a lot of these people that are accusing me are more fervently searching for the truth. And then in essence, they might be searching for the truth to contend with me with the truth that I'm sharing about Jesus Christ and my perspective of how I personally know him. Well, then I know that when they do that, they're invariably going to discover the same variables of truth that I've come up with. And that I never searched to discredit the truth of Jesus Christ. My search has always been to credit the supremacy of Jesus Christ in my life. And I've never been let down. I have been let down on the supremacy of my own credentials. Absolutely. And all of these other people that express themselves as gods at that exact moment have let themselves down in their own personal credential of faith. The credibility of intelligence. That's the least intelligent thing that you could possibly say, is that you're a god. The least intelligent thing that you could possibly imagine when you yourself are eating food that is grown from an environment that you yourself are not in control of, that you yourself might suffer some sort of veil of the hope to control the material environment. But in essence, the level of control of the material environment that we have right now is about the same perspective of the level of control that people have over themselves. I mean, people are out of control, therefore the environment's out of control. And if they are controlling certain aspects of the weather, they're controlling it in a chaotic fashion, which now fulfills the fractal of their own chaos, their own inability to control themselves. And that chaos is indulged for some sort of fruition of perfection, which the only thing that develops from it is the abomination of the illusion. Because people have been basically blindfolded and spun around in circles, and then asked to pin the tail on the correct equational donkey, the correct tale of our own history. You know, the mixing of these genetic materials that are symbolized with donkeys and asses. You know, I don't know, guys. I've just made the video too long already, but I do hope that you understand I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I claim that I've been offered a gift of perfection by one who is perfect. And then that's the perfection that's going to support me, not the perfection of myself. There will be inconsistencies in me, but there will be no inconsistencies in the truth of Jesus Christ. I have no problem admitting that I'm a total failure in comparison to the perfection of Jesus Christ. Absolute total failure. That I am unable to keep pace with the glorious truth of the Spirit of Truth. I'm unable to keep pace. I do my best to keep as steady with it as I can, and then I have to rest. I have to slow down invariably and rest. But what I find out is that the Spirit recharges me, and then the things that I have gathered along the way, the Spirit begins to organize in my mind, so that the next time I come back, I'm able to convey what I've basically understood, thus far. The mounting information that's building upon itself from the direction in which its game is still going, that same direction, into that direction of the perfection of the understanding of truth, to the glory of Jesus Christ. So, all glory to Jesus, I am one of the ones. I am the fourth carpenter. I have been selected for something, and I'm not ashamed for it. I feel that the people that claim that I got some sort of ego for saying that are really the people that are displaying the ego because they're jealous of that. You know, that's what real ego is. You know, and if you're not about Jesus, you guys think you are. You're about the devil, and you're doing the devil's work. At least these people that are professing themselves as gods, and then now they're all about this fire coming from the sky. They want it, and then they think they're going to be lifted up. Well, we know where they're going. We know who they are. We know what they're about. We know what their plan is. Most likely better than they do. And we can explain it to them in such a way that it should reveal to them what they're in and what's going to continue to happen to them. You know, they're becoming more blind and more blind the more they reject the truth of Jesus Christ. You know? It's just amazing. So, I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be perfect. I'm so super far from it. Jesus is perfect. His truth is so magnificent and full of its glory that I'm unable to express it anywhere close to its fullness. But the expression of the fullness that will always continue is the perfection of Jesus as our Creator, as my Lord and Master. I profess Jesus Christ is my Lord, Master, Savior, God, Creator, my all, my everything, my life, my sustenance, my water, my friend. Jesus is your friend. He's your Creator. And if you accept Him, He will be your Savior. Whether you think that you need one now or not, I guess is open to interpretation, really. You know? But I do forewarn everyone that there is coming a day so speedily soon upon all of us where you will need Him as your Savior, and He will be the only thing that will get you through. And if there's one thing that you remember from all of my videos in your time of need, you remember that. And I think that you will. I'll be back.